I'm Nicholas Whalen. Join me in discovering the domestic art of keeping animals as pets, as Quaid and Quasi and I share with you some of our pet peeves. We kick off the show with a visit to a very special animal facility in Prince Edward Island, established in 2008 with the goal to help horses help people. Take a look. We're here at the Hughes Jones Center for People and Animals in Cornwall, Prince Edward Island. And while horse lessons may be the big attraction here, there are many life lessons rooted into the everyday programming that's offered at this remarkable facility. And today, we learned firsthand what one can expect when they come here.
We teach recreational horseback riding lessons, but we try and focus our efforts on youth programming as much as possible. So for youth, and high-risk youth especially, we have specific programs that we work with group homes on Prince Edward Island as well as schools to make sure that we're providing programming that's useful. Our lesson structure, or the way I like to teach, is definitely geared towards the child, but I believe that horseback riding teaches us a lot more than just how to sit pretty on a horse. So our teaching style, I believe, is we put safety and even life skills and life lessons first in the saddle. The skill will come eventually. There's no timeline on horseback riding, so this isn't something that you're going to do for a year, we hope, and stop. This is something that we would hope to see you continue out with for the rest of your life, and if not, at least you can draw some good life experience from what happens in this arena. When somebody first starts at HJC, we ask them to come in for a meet and greet first. We like to have a conversation with people as often as possible so we can see what they're interested in and to make sure it's a good fit before we hit the ground. From there, first lesson, they come out and we go out into the field and introduce them to the horses. They learn everything from the ground up, so how to catch their horse, how to put a halter on their horse, how to lead their horse into the barn, how to tie their horse up, and then of course how to groom and prepare for a saddle and a riding lesson. An appropriate age to start lessons would be approximately 9 years old for our type of facility. We don't have ponies, so our horses are relatively large, and we would like a child to have enough strength and physicality to be able to handle that animal safely. For a parent that's looking to get their child involved in horseback riding, I would suggest they consider what they want their child to get out of it. If it's the ability to sit in a saddle and be led around, by all means, you can start a lot younger, but you want your kids to be able to have a good grasp of their right and their left and a good amount of strength, I would say, as well. Our curriculum at HJC is largely based on the individual and pairing children or adults that are like-minded together. We will personally prepare a curriculum that works for what you want, as long as that's safe and responsible. For new potential riders, as far as equipment is concerned, we try and set ourselves up so that people don't need to make a huge investment in order to try horseback riding out as a potential extracurricular. We don't require anything fancy, no fancy equipment, warm clothes in cold weather, and toe warmers are always a definite must as well. But other than that, a good attitude, and we've got the rest. I started this program 4 and a bit years ago now, and I've been watching some of my students grow from little kids into young women, really. So there's a maturity that you get to see your students start to take with them, and you feel like you're a part of their lives as they continue on. We're watching people become teachers themselves now. So we're hiring back some of our students to teach our younger generation of riders coming up. And it's really lovely to see. We have a push-up list at HJC that has now become famous. It's on our website as well. If a child in a lesson says, I can't do that, they owe me push-ups before they leave. And everybody signs off on that when they come in. And it's a great tool, actually. You shouldn't give up. And most of our rules are based around giving up before you try.
Hi, I'm Rebecca and I'm here at HJC, and the most question my friends would probably ask me is, how do I groom a horse?
I read at one point a 90-year-old woman said that the most important thing she ever learned about working with horses was to always groom and tack up your own horse. Everybody will tell you their favorite way, but the standard involves 3 brushes. The first brush is called the curry comb. The curry comb is used to get to the skin of the horse. We use it in a circular motion to stimulate circulation and bring the dirt and grime up from the skin to the top of the fur coat. You should start with a lot of pressure, like a massage, going all over your horse's body. We tend not to go below the knee of the horse because that tends to get into sensitive areas. The second brush in your average grooming kit is called the dandy brush. It's typically a stiff bristled brush, and it's used more like a broom to sweep all of that dirt that you've worked up with your curry comb in a flicking motion in the direction of the hair off of the horse. The third brush is the body brush, and we tend to use the body brush all over the horse's body. This is a soft brush, and it's used to move the oils that you've stimulated while using the curry comb and dandy brush all over the horse to give him a very shiny, healthy coat. There are different schools of thought on whether you should pick a horse's feet first before doing the other brushes. We tend to do it after we go through the curry comb, dandy brush, and body brush. To lift a horse's leg, you're going to want to slide your hand down the inside of his leg. A well-trained horse should pick up just right away. We're trying to find the clefts of the frog, so we want to pick out along the side. A horse's hoof is like our fingers and toenails, so there's not a lot of feeling in your horse's foot, but you need to get underneath in order all of that dirt to make sure that there's nothing sharp or pointy. You want to be able to see that there's no gravel or grit or anything that they might have stepped on that gets wedged in. This horse happens to not have a shoe on. He's barefoot, but the picking out technique changes slightly based on what type of footwear or farriery a horse has. A basic groom involves combing a horse's mane as well. A lot of people will say that a horse has zero feeling in their mane, but I don't believe that. There are horses that are much more sensitive in their manes than others. We want to comb through with a brush, and you can pretty much rip right through there because a horse doesn't have the same amount of feeling that you or I have in our hair. Now, when we move to the tail, that's a little bit different. But in our average grooms, we do not groom our horses' tails. So we groom through their mane, and then we check their forelock as well, their bangs. We have a responsibility to keep our horses safe, and the tack and equipment can cause friction and blisters and sores. So grooming becomes very important for a good ride, as well as our own horses' safety. We're looking all the time for new prospective HJCers who want to learn a little bit about themselves and a lot about horses.
There is something about the outside of a horse that is good for the inside of a man. Words once spoken by Winston Churchill himself, and words that resonate with anyone who stepped through the doors of this remarkable stable and unique place for horses. A place that Ellen Jones herself says is built for people, but designed by horses. Welcome back to Pet Peeves, exclusively on Eastlink TV. And before the break, we were at the Hughes Jones Center for People and Animals, where Ellen Jones herself helped us answer some of your questions at home. And if you'd like to reach us, you can reach me at The Pet Keeper on Twitter or petpeeves@eastlink.ca via email. And joining me now in studio is Ellen Jones, the proprietor and owner of the Hughes Jones Center for People and Animals. Thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
So I want to start off by having a quick conversation about your background. I mean, you have a very impressive one, and I couldn't think of anyone more credible to be here today to speak about horses and what it is that you do. So where did you get started?
I got started here on Prince Edward Island when I was quite young. I was about 9 years old when I started horseback riding here and in lessons, and graduated to traveling internationally, really, and gaining experience that way. So slightly different channels than a lot of people would go, but I wanted to see what the world had to offer. So I traveled a lot. Starting in Australia, I worked there for quite some time. Traveled and worked with horses as well in the UK, Wales particularly, and volunteered in Africa. From there, worked with horses in Shanghai, China, and then decided it was time to come home and do some more study.
So what is the common thread with horses all over the world? I'm sure the disciplines and the way of practicing and the keeping of horses is different no matter where you go, to some extent at least. But is there that common thread?
I think people finding themselves in rural places working with horses was the common thread. So for me, it was the people from all over the world that had a draw to this animal and were looking for more education about it. I saw that everywhere I went, and I saw people finding comfort with animals as well. So that was a big pull for me once I got home.
I would consider myself relatively well-traveled, and depending on where you travel in the world, there are those culture shocks that you see.
Yes.
So of all the places you've been, where is that one horse place that kind of wowed you or really made you think about horse keeping in a different way?
Shanghai was an amazing experience. I mean, the city of Shanghai has 16 million people, and I was working at a stable that had approximately 40 horses. It was an amazing experience. It was so different to everything that I had ever seen growing up. They would bed their horses with rice husk because they didn't have wood shavings.
Wow.
Things like that, just things you wouldn't see. Because labor was less expensive, they were so incredibly staffed. Sidewalkers for every young rider. That's something we now employ at HJC, actually, for beginner riders. So every place I went, I learned things. Sometimes it was what not to do, and sometimes it was what I really liked. And Shanghai really opened my eyes.
I should mention before we go any further that you've brought your dog with you today.
Yes.
Tell us about her.
Lala has been my sidekick since we opened HJC in 2008. And she's been with me since she was 7 weeks old. So she travels with me everywhere, to youth conferences, to grown-up conferences, to kind of promote what we do. And it's amazing. You put a cute, lovable dog in a room full of business people, and you get a whole bunch of people on the floor playing with her. So it's a great icebreaker.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, they're much more familiar with a dog than sometimes they would be a horse.
Oh,
so
for
it's
sure.
a good buffer to kind of introduce people to something.
Oh, for sure.
On a bigger level in your instance, yeah.
Oh, for sure. She's our welcoming committee. The first thing you'll meet when you come to through my doors is
It seems
her.
a lot of stables have those animal ambassadors. In many cases, it's a dog.
I think we need them because the horses are too big to take to a situation like this, and to really kind of allow people to understand the connection or the relationship between a horse and a child. Sometimes starting with something a little bit more familiar is easier, for sure.
So in what discipline of horses did you get started?
Western. I started Western horseback riding.
So for our viewers at home, some of whom perhaps know what Western riding is and others who do not. Can you kind of give us in a nutshell what that is?
Western horseback riding is really, your ranch style of horseback riding. It's what your cowboys would have done back in the day.
And still do.
And still do. Cowboys and girls, I should say. So the saddle is primarily the difference, and some of the events that you would compete in are quite different. You work cattle in a Western saddle. You would rope in a Western saddle, barrel racing, pole bending, that kind of thing. Whereas the English disciplines are more jumping and dressage, that type of thing. So Western is where I got my roots, but because I worked in the UK, I did ride English. I am not a purist. I believe life is better in the saddle regardless of its shape. So, but yes, my start was definitely in Western riding.
Well, thank you, Ellen. We'll talk more with Ellen after the break. Don't go anywhere. It's been another busy week at the PEI Humane Society, and while many of you may associate the shelter with cats and dogs, that's not the only animals that they are seeing. In fact, they get many of these pocket pets, like this guinea pig here. And joining me is Tim Sheepens, an animal protection officer with the PEI Humane Society. Tim, tell us a little bit about the special needs of these types of animals.
Well, Elmo here is a guinea pig, and like you said, we get many other of these types of animals in as well. Hamsters, ferrets, rabbits, chinchillas, dagoos even. They're all slightly exotic, and people kind of underestimate the special needs that some of these animals might need. It's not just, shavings or a carrot every now and then like I have here. So we're always in need of special donations for these types of animals. Things we're looking for are aspen shavings, no pine or cedar please, Carefresh bedding, and it looks a little bit like cotton balls. Any type of oxbow food, which we feed to the rabbits and some of the guinea pigs, and something like chews. So if you have an apple tree in your garden, you can snip off a twig and they can nibble on that, provides them with a little bit extra stimulation. So any type of those donations you can spare, please come and tell us.
Terrific. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
To learn more about how you can help the PEI Humane Society, please log on to their website, peihumanesociety.com, or give them a call at 892-1190. Welcome back to Pet Peeves, exclusively here on Eastlink TV. Joining me in studio is Ellen Jones, the proprietor, owner of the Hughes Jones Center for People and Animals here in Prince Edward Island, a horse facility, a remarkable one at that. And before the break, we talked a lot about your travels and really what got you started in the horse industry and so on. And I thought we could maybe touch a little bit on, post all of these travels and whatnot, how did you come up with the programming which you offer at HJC now?
I really started to notice how important safety was and solid education for young people, especially with horses, but also that a program that allowed participants to fail in a safe way, to struggle, how powerful that was when they overcame that struggle. And so a lot of our programming, although yes, we teach horseback riding, is really about leading up to getting onto the horse, that, you know, we're not going to allow a child to ride before they really understand how to catch and lead their horse. So in that way, nothing's done for them, and they have a lot of confidence in themselves by the time they get on the horse. And that was something I found really lacking in certain programs that I worked on. And it's something we're really happy and we're having a lot of success with our students now. So
Now give me an example of some of the programs you do offer. Like, are there more serious ones, and what if somebody just wants to go and have a fun ride?
Typically we don't offer fun, that sounds horrible.
It does sound bad. That's perhaps mine.
We don't rent horses for the day and let people go out. And that's an insurance issue. We want to make sure that people are going to have a safe and happy experience the first time they're on a horse. But safety can mean moving a little bit slower than a lot of people would initially want to do. So we don't offer the average trail ride. These are lesson programs, and we really focus on learning a skill before they move forward. So the skill of horseback riding.
I have to say, one of the things that most impressed me when I first met you and was introduced to the facility was how it lifted the pressure of that competitiveness away. I mean, I grew up, loved animals, loved horses, and I loved riding. In fact, I took horseback riding lessons, but I was always encouraged to go competitive with it, and that just wasn't my nature. So really what I see you doing, or at least offering, is an alternative to that. And I think that that's special, because not everyone is into competitive sports.
And we find it takes a lot of the competition away from the children as well. So instead of competing with each other, we find that they're supporting each other and learning from each other a lot more. And for the adults too, being able to support each other like a little barn family. And that's kind of the environment that we really appreciate and we really want to have.
Sure.
So
tell me about, you have a new project that you've just wrapped up in recent weeks, months?
We completed it just before summer, I guess.
It's the Hughes Jones Center for People and Animals Learning to Ride the HJC Way 1 manual. And so give us an overview of what it is.
This is our program for beginners, essentially. Instead of borrowing from other organizations, we wanted people to have an HJC-specific Learn to Ride manual. So we photographed our students, our horses, and even our students contributed to the artwork that's in it. So all of it is us. And it's step by step how we're set up and how we teach our program for our students.
And you felt there was a need for this? How did you identify this as a project you wanted to take part in?
We find that people learn in a variety of ways. We have a YouTube channel that has some of our kids featured learning how to groom or learning how to put a saddle on to help our riders once they get home. And we take an iPad even into our lessons now for our visual learners. But some people really need to read and to see things set out for them in a step-by-step type of way. And for me, any horse book when I was a child, I was just devouring. So for us, we wanted it to be in simple language too, so that kids could actually learn and go forward. But adults, we've had good feedback from adults as well, breaking the step-by-step down and kind of us being able to be a voice in their head after they leave their hour lesson once a week. This is kind of helps us really underline what what we do.
And this may be possibly one part in a series or a future series?
Yes, if we sit down with enough time. I wrote it with a friend and volunteer, AJ Morrow. So we both had a hand in really trying to break it down and make sure that it worked for our kids.
Awesome. So what does the future of HJC hold? Where are you going with this?
Oh, everywhere. World domination.
Yeah.
We're heading off. We're coming into our 5th year of business. We just had our 5th birthday. And more of the same. We want to get the program available to more kids, more participants, and hopefully help them find ways to participate financially as well. So we've got a lot of happy things on the horizon, coming up. We're
And
excited.
if people want to get a copy of the manual?
It's actually free if they have an iPad. We have a PayPal website set up off of our website at thehughesjonescenter.ca, so they can order one right online.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very
We
much for
wish
having
you
me.
all the best of luck. I know you do wonderful things there, and we really wish you all the best.
Oh, thank you very
Thanks
much.
for coming in.
Happy to do it.
Ellen Jones with the Hughes Jones Center for People and Animals. So that's it for this week on Pet Peeves, exclusively here on Eastlink TV. Please join us again next time.